Hello, hello, hello. What is going on, everyone? Welcome to the first ever episode of The Logical Take, where I'll be providing logical, fair, objective, balanced, unbiased, unfiltered, and just honest takes on a variety of popular, polarizing, and controversial topics. And this first topic, this question, is the most mysterious question in the history of mankind. It's the most unanswerable question, right? I mean, this question has existed since the beginning of time. People have always wondered, like, how did we get here? How do we exist? Where did we come from? And initially, the easy answer to this was that, there was some supreme being out there that created everything. But as time went on and as humans became more advanced in science, we started coming up with theories such as, the Big Bang Theory, the theory of evolution. And, as time went on, scientists came to realize there just isn't solid evidence for, the origin of the universe, the existence of God. Even the Big Bang Theory recently got tossed out, right? So all we really have right now are theories and religion, right? And obviously theories are just theories. They're not solid proof, and religions, they're just based on faith. So technically we still don't know. We have absolutely no proof for the existence of God. Nothing that can make us have a definitive yes or no answer to the question of the existence of God. So how do we go about doing this then? Well, believe it or not, I actually have a way where we can come up with that definitive yes or no answer to this question. We will know for sure. So let's get started. So the first thing we have to do is actually take a look at a mathematical equation. Math is the language of the universe. I'm sure a lot of you have heard that before. So this math problem is so simple that even my 3-year-old son knows the answer to. And it's 0 plus 0 equals 0. So easy, right? But what does 0 mean? 0 means nothing. None. Nada. Right? So if I have 0 apples on my dining table, and I go to the store and I buy an apple, I come back home and I put that apple on my dining table, now I have 1 apple on my dining table. 0 plus 1 equals 1. But what if that apple did not exist? What if apples didn't exist? What if there was no such thing as an apple? Then what? Well, then I'd always have 0 apples on my dining table, right? Because apples don't exist. So I'll never have an apple on my dining table. How's that significant? Well, what if there was a time when absolutely nothing existed? Nothing at all. No universe, no energy, no atoms. Absolutely nothing existed. Then how would we have existed? We wouldn't have, right? Again, 0 plus 0 equals 0. That means if there were ever a time when absolutely nothing existed, then nothing would have came from it, right? Because something can't come from nothing. Things don't magically appear, right? You can't get anything from 0 unless there is also something else out there that already exists. But what I'm saying is, what if nothing existed? Then we would have remained a whole big nothing. And that is important because that means that the universe is actually eternal. It has no beginning. It has no end. It's eternal. It's always been there. And when I say the universe, I just mean existence, right? I mean whatever was originally and always there, the power of the universe, So whatever has always been there had to have always been there, right? Whatever is the origin, the start, the thing that started it all, it had to always have been there. Because if there was ever a time when there was nothing, we would have remained nothing. Life wouldn't have existed. So keep that in mind, as you'll understand later on why that's important. Now, moving on to another example. Let's say I have a deck of cards, right? There's 52 cards in a deck, and they're divided into 4 different suits: hearts, spades, clubs, diamonds. And each suit has 13 cards: ace, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, jack, queen, king, in that order. So what if I arranged that deck and ordered all the cards by suit and by number. Each suit then had ace, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way to jack, queen, king. I ordered it in that order, and all the suits were together, the hearts were together, the spades were together, and I put it in a nice little stack, right, in that perfect order. And I went outside and I tossed that deck of cards up in the air, and they all came raining down and fell on the ground, scattered all over the place. So in how many years do you think that those cards will come back together in that nice little pile, stacked up, arranged by suit, arranged by card number, in that specific order? 10 years, 100 years, 1,000,000 years? Well, I mean, the obvious answer is never, right? Because cards wouldn't be able to do that on their own, right? Even though there might be a mathematical probability, the thing is, we know that it would never happen, right? Because it is that order that I put those 52 cards in, it's too complex for them to just randomly, no matter in how many years, come back together in that nice, perfect stack in that specific order, right? The wind's not going to blow them into that specific order in a nice pile, right? If anything, it'll just scatter the cards even more. Similarly, you take a look at like a 100-piece puzzle, and I would have to put all those pieces together and complete the puzzle. But if I take that puzzle apart, those puzzle pieces would never come back together on their own, not even in 1,000,000,000 years. But why is that? Why can't those cards come back together in a nice, perfect stack in that order? Or why can't the puzzle create itself? Well, the reason for that is because of a law. There's a law in physics. It's called the law of entropy. And what that law means is that in any environment, a system will always go towards a state of disorder rather than a state of order. And the only way a system will go towards a state of order is if there's an outside source of energy, of intelligence that creates that order, right? So, and this isn't just something that, you learn from a science book or anything like that, right? You can see this in everyday life. This is a law, kind of like gravity. The law of gravity, we can see it work. Similarly, same with entropy, right? Just like the card example I gave, the puzzle example. But you can see it in even something as simple as, a messy room, a messy closet. Like, I would have to use my intelligence to stack and fold all my shirts and arrange them by size and color, and place them on a shelf in a nice clean stack. But what if I walked into the room and I just randomly threw each shirt into the closet, without thinking, just tossed it in there? What would the closet look like then? Well, all the shirts are just going to be scattered randomly all over the place. They're not going to be folded. They're not going to be in a pile, a nice stacked pile. They're not going to be arranged in any sort of order, right? And that's because of the law of entropy. Everything goes towards a state of disorder naturally, right? You have to have some outside source, such as intelligence, to create order, to create some complex order, right? Because naturally, through time, things will always go towards a state of disorder. And if they're already in a peak state of disorder, they will remain in that state of disorder. So how is this significant, right? How does this relate to this question? Well, compare how complex the order that I put the cards in is to life, to living things, to the human body. If any of you have taken biology, then you'd understand how incredibly complex the human body is. Every organ, every cell, every molecule acts as if it has a function, like it has a job. It moves around the body doing its job, as if it has intelligence. The cells act and move around as if they have intelligence. They know what to do, where to go. And the reason for that is the brain is telling them what to do. Compare the complexity of the mind to the complexity of the body. How much more complex is the mind? Consciousness, intelligence, emotion, memory, all of this. And each individual is unique. This is infinitely more complex than anything else that exists, right? So a simple deck of cards, a simple order that I put it in, can never happen on its own, not even in a billion years. So how could life, how could living things, our bodies, our minds, create on their own or from randomness? Well, according to the law of entropy, that's actually not possible, right? So let's say the Big Bang Theory was correct. There was a big bang, a big explosion of energy, of atoms, and they just went scattered all over the place randomly. So what they say is that through randomness, these atoms eventually, through trillions of years, along with evolution, eventually created life, created this universe. But that's actually not possible according to the law of entropy, because the law of entropy says everything goes towards a state of disorder. So if these atoms were already in a disordered state, they would remain in that state throughout time. No matter what, they would remain in that disordered state, because in order for them to create order, and not just any order, right? Something so incredibly complex like life, it would require some outside source, such as intelligence, to put them in that incredibly complex order, which would eventually create life, right? So what does that mean then? Well, compare the human body to a factory, for example, right? Factories have robotic machinery, robotic arms that pick up and move and place objects as if they have intelligence, right? But obviously they don't. They've been programmed by computers that humans created, computer programs that humans created, right? So this robotic machinery, the computer programs, the computers, these have all been created by human intelligence, right? I mean, factories, computers, these are extremely complicated things that can only be created by human adult intelligence, right? A baby can't create all this stuff. Animals can't do it. It requires a very high level of intelligence, like human beings, to be able to create that. But, right, compare the factories to the human body. Compare the computers to the human mind. How much more complex are bodies compared to the factories? How much more complex is the mind compared to computers? I mean, it's not even close, right? So if it requires so much intelligence to create factories, to create computers, so how in the world could our minds and bodies have been created? Because human beings are the most intelligent beings alive, right? Think about it, guys. We cannot have been created from randomness due to the law of entropy. Our bodies and our minds are so similar to factories and computers, which had to have been created by intelligence. Therefore, it is not possible for life to have existed unless an intelligent source created it. An intelligent source designed our bodies, designed our minds, right? Because of the law of entropy, we could not have resulted from randomness. Life could not have resulted from randomness. There had to have been an outside source of intelligence that created life, that created living things, that created the mind. Intelligent design, right? I'm sure a lot of you have heard that before, but you've heard that from a religious perspective. I'm not coming at this from a religious perspective. I'm coming at this from a logical, a scientific perspective, right? Again, due to the law of entropy, life could not have been created from randomness. So what that means is there is some intelligent source out there that created life. Well, what am I describing? I mean, I'm basically describing the definition of God, right? Right? Some intelligent being that created everything. That's basically the definition of God. And I'm sure atheists are now rolling their eyes like, oh, God, here we go again. God doesn't exist. Well, hold on for a second. When you think of God, you think of some old dude with a long beard sitting in the sky with magical powers. No. No, dude, that's not what God is. And, no offense to anyone or any religion, but there's no logical reason. There's no evidence to believe God is some man or woman with magical powers sitting in the sky. Is God like some sort of intelligent alien from another planet? Or are we part of a computer simulation that's been created by some intelligent being? It's possible. But again, just like there's no reason to believe God is some old man with a long beard with superpowers, there's no reason for us to believe that some alien created us or we're part of a computer simulation created by some other intelligent being, right? Because there is no evidence to prove that. There's no logical reasoning for us to think that, right? All we know is that we were created by a conscious and intelligent being. And the reason I say conscious is because intelligence can't do anything on its own, right? It's just intelligence. But consciousness allows the intelligence to be used, right? You have to be alive to use it. You have to be conscious to use intelligence. So whatever source created everything is conscious and is intelligent, right? That source has to exist because we could not have been created from randomness due to the law of entropy. That's what God is, right? We don't know what God is like. We don't know, there's no reason to think God has, is a man or a woman or has eyes or a head or arms. There's no reason to believe that. We don't know what God is like. All we know is, like I said, God is some conscious and intelligent source that is responsible for the creation of everything, right? And go back to our 0 + 0 example, how we concluded that the universe is eternal, or the power of the universe is eternal, right? Isn't that another characteristic of God, as we know? Eternal, right? Because obviously God can't have been created, right? And just as we discussed earlier, the universe can't have been created because there had to have been something that has always existed for us to exist. That's what God is. God is the eternal, conscious, and intelligent source that created everything, that created life. God has to exist in the sense that I'm describing it. It's not some wizard in the sky with magical powers. No. In the sense that I'm describing it, God, the source of everything, has to exist, right? Intelligence exists, right? Consciousness exists. What does that mean? Well, everything has a source, right? Water has a source. Every single thing that exists has a source. Things don't magically appear, right? So same with intelligence, right? As life goes on and on and on, as life continues to be born, the circle of life, animals, humans, living things, as they go on and on and on, we continue to have more intelligence, right? It's as if there's an unlimited supply of intelligence, unlimited supply of consciousness, unlimited supply of memory, unlimited supply of every emotion. There's an unlimited supply of everything. Why is that? Well, it's because the source where all of these things come from is unlimited, is infinite, right? And again, another characteristic of God, that source that created us has an infinite amount of everything, right? This source is intelligent, has an infinite amount of intelligence, an infinite amount of consciousness, an infinite amount of memory, of emotion, of everything, and is eternal. According to some religions, that's basically the definition of God. But again, like I said, I'm not coming at this from a religious or a cultural perspective, right? Based on our mathematical, logical, and scientific reasoning, the examples we just went through, 0 + 0, how something can't come from nothing, the law of entropy, how something so complex like life cannot have been created from randomness. Due to all this, we have to conclude with certainty that life and just the universe in general was created from some conscious an intelligent and eternal source. Well, that source defines God, right? I mean, I'm sure, I know, a lot of atheists, they just despise the notion of God, right? Because, they hate religion so much, and they just, laugh at the whole concept of God. They spend their whole lives just, laughing at it, So I understand if you're having a hard time, accepting that God has to exist. But again, remember, it's not the God as you have always thought of, right? Some fairy tale man with magical powers, right? So you don't have to call it God if you really don't want to, right? Call it the source, call it the creator, call it the universe, or nature, whatever you want. I'm calling it God because technically that's the definition of God, right? The conscious and intelligent source that created everything. I'm calling it God because, that's what God technically is, right? So I hope that makes sense, guys. And if it doesn't, go back and listen to this again. Try to understand every single step of the process that we went through to come to this conclusion, right? Don't listen to me. I'm just some random guy on the internet, right? Listen to the reasons I gave. 0 plus 0, how something can't come from nothing, the law of entropy, what that means. Think of how complex life is, how complex our bodies, our minds are, right? Think of all that, and you'll understand how it's actually not possible for God, in the sense that I'm describing it, to not exist. God has to exist. We have to have been created by an intelligent source. And that source is the source of everything. That source is eternal. That source is God. All right? So what does that mean then? Well, we have to understand that we don't even have control of our own lives, right? We can die at any moment. A lightning bolt, a heart attack. So we got to start being humble about ourselves, right? Too many people out there just disrespect God, right? Laugh at the whole concept of God. But I just proved to you that God has to exist. And the thing is, we don't know what's going to happen to us after we die, right? We don't know how God acts. We don't know what God will do. We just know that God exists. We don't know anything. So why not play it safe, right? It's better to be safe than sorry. Let's be smart about this, right? So try to establish a connection with God, however way you want, right? If you're too embarrassed to, talk to God or whatever, do it privately. You don't even have to talk because, like I said, God is infinite in every way. God can do anything. God can read your mind, right? Whatever abilities that we have, right? If my son or my daughter, they want a toy, I can actually go and buy a toy for them. I can fulfill their wish. Me, a simple human being. So imagine what that source that has an infinite amount of everything, what that source can do. So we don't know. So let's be smart about this, guys. Try to establish a connection with God. Again, like I said, you don't have to call it God. Call it the source. Call it the creator. Whatever you want. But try to understand that God, in the sense that I'm describing it, has to exist. All right. So if you've listened up until this point, thank you. I understand this was pretty long, but it's very important, for us to kind of understand this and acknowledge it. Because, like I said, we don't know what's going to happen after we die. So let's play it smart and play it safe. All right, guys. Well, this is the only episode that's out so far. I'm going to be creating more, and there's going to be some interesting topics coming up. We're going to be talking about gender and Michael Jordan versus LeBron James, feminism, and all kinds of other fun and entertaining and controversial topics. So stay tuned. But like I said, it's the only one I have so far. So subscribe, so when I do make more, you'll get, some sort of notification or whatever. I don't know how it works, but share this with everyone. Let's see what people think. Let's see what people have to say about it. But anyway, thank you guys for listening, and until next time.